This is about what I will personally label the idiocy of Team USA women's basketball. How dare you make this?
This decision is an absolute earthquake in the world of sports. Stephen A. Smith just dropped a bombshell that absolutely nobody saw coming, and it changes everything. According to him, Caitlin Clark has reportedly quit Team USA after being snubbed and benched from the official Olympic roster. Now let's be clear, this isn't just some random internet speculation anymore. This is coming from the loudest, most influential voice in sports media, who has just confirmed what a lot of people were already suspecting. Clark is completely done seeking validation from a group of people who, it seems, never really wanted her there in the first place. The golden girl of basketball, who has been under a microscope for months, finally went silent. But the fallout from this decision is absolutely deafening. This move fundamentally alters the trajectory of women's basketball from this point forward. So I have to ask you, do you think Caitlin Clark made the right call by walking away from Team USA? Or should she have stayed and fought harder for her spot? Let me know what you think down in the comments.
She's white. And because of that, when you consider some of the hard times other people gave her, they were resentful of the fact that this white girl came on the scene where there was a bunch of sisters that preceded her spanning decades that were big time, that deserved a lot of credit. I mean, people looked at the Cheryl Swoops of the world, the Maya Moores of the world, and others, and they said, yo, there was a bunch of people that came before her that did big things for the WNBA. I respect it. It is right. I appreciate it. But whiteness does have its privileges, especially when you got a game. And what a lot of people weren't willing or were a bit reluctant to appreciate was the game on this young white sister of ours. She can ball. And oh, by the way, she was a great ambassador for the game. And by the way, she came in there and looked out for everybody else. For 22 years, they couldn't get chartered flights. That sister got there, and it was done in 2 weeks. That's who.
And let's be real about who Caitlin Clark is up against. Stephen A. Smith doesn't just get on TV and make noise simply for the sake of getting attention. When he commits to a narrative this hard with this much conviction, it signals that something incredibly significant is happening behind the scenes. His recent fiery commentary about Caitlin Clark and Team USA isn't just him criticizing a simple roster decision. No, this is much deeper. It's a full-blown expose of a systemic dysfunction that has been festering within the leadership of women's basketball for years. And now, thanks to this controversy, it has violently exploded into the public view. Think about it, the Olympic roster announcement was supposed to be a routine, run-of-the-mill press release. USA Basketball drops the names, the fans react for maybe a day, and then everybody moves on to the next sports news cycle. But that's not what happened this time. Instead, when the leaks started to confirm that Caitlin Clark, the one woman who is single-handedly selling out arenas that have been collecting dust for decades, was left off the roster, the public reaction wasn't just confusion. It was pure, unfiltered rage. The entire basketball community, from die-hard fans to casual observers, simply could not comprehend how the most popular, most electrifying player in the sport was somehow not making the Olympic team.
What the hell is going on with WNBA that they cannot handle all this attention that they're getting, as well as the hate and anger towards Caitlin Clark?
When it comes to Caitlin Clark, now I've taken hits, because I was calling it from day one. You got people that are resentful towards her. It's really not about her, guys. It's about what she represents. Before she ever came along, there were a lot of outstanding basketball players who happened to be black females that was doing their thing on the WNBA level, and they never got this kind of shine. This girl, the Golden Goose, comes along, and she wreaks havoc. She's a star caliber player who draws this attention. And maybe it's because that fan base that she has and her being a young white lady contributes to it. So what? Benefit from it.
The official explanation that came down from the selection committee felt weak right from the very start. They started talking about vague experience requirements and this supposed 3-year commitment that was needed to be considered part of the core group. Now, on paper, I guess that sounds logical and even reasonable. But that logic completely and utterly ignores the reality of what Caitlin Clark represents for the entire sport of basketball. You just don't leave Michael Jordan at home because he's new to the league and needs more experience. You don't bench a young Tiger Woods because he hasn't paid his dues on the tour long enough. When you have a generational talent, a massive draw, you take them and you put them on the plane. Period. That is precisely how professional sports are supposed to operate when they're functioning properly. But here's where this story takes a turn and gets genuinely disturbing. Insiders quickly started leaking information that suggested this wasn't some simple oversight or a mistake based on a merit evaluation. This was a deliberate message being sent directly to Clark. Sources close to the selection process revealed that there were serious concerns about how the veteran players on the team would react to Clark's massive presence. The committee was apparently worried about the circus, as they called it, that she brings the non-stop media attention that follows her absolutely everywhere she goes. In essence, they prioritized protecting the feelings and the comfort zone of established veterans over the monumental opportunity to grow the game and maximize the team's marketability on a global stage. This is the exact point where Stephen A. Smith drew his line in the sand. He didn't just disagree with the decision, he called out the fundamental mind-boggling stupidity of prioritizing comfort over competition and basic business sense. Smith went on national television and systematically, piece by piece, dismantled every single justification the committee tried to offer. His argument was devastatingly simple and frankly impossible to refute. The Olympics is a global showcase that only happens once every 4 years. It's that one singular moment when casual fans, the ones who normally ignore women's basketball, actually tune in to watch. The sport has been struggling with viewership for decades, despite producing some incredible world-class talent. And then suddenly you have a player who is bringing in millions of new eyeballs, setting all-time television records, and selling out entire arenas in cities that literally couldn't give away tickets the season before. And the committee's response to this gift: to leave her at home.
But are we really trying to grow the game? Because this is the most popular women's basketball player in the world, and it ain't close. They had to move the Mystic game to an NBA arena. Name the time. And I'm going to turn it over to you because I don't want to get long-winded. I want somebody, one of our women colleagues, Stephen A., to tell me when a WNBA game has had to be moved because of a woman player. Just one. Just tell me one. Because I know in her attendance, she's averaging about 17,000. All the other WNBA games in which she's not a participant average about 7. So are we really trying to go the game? Is that what we're really trying to do? Or are we just talking about we're trying to grow the game and just bull-jiving?
Stephen A. Smith argued, very convincingly, that this was a marketing disaster of truly historic proportions. He pointed out a critical fact that many people forget. For Team USA women's basketball, it isn't really about winning the gold medal anymore. Let's be honest, they win gold almost automatically, and they have for years, regardless of who is actually on the roster. The talent gap between the United States and the rest of the world is so incredibly massive that they could probably send a college all-star team over there and still dominate the competition. So, the actual goal of the Olympics should have been something much bigger: growing the game, expanding the brand, and bringing new audiences into the world of women's basketball permanently. By excluding Clark, Smith argued that the gatekeepers of the sport prove they care more about maintaining their internal hierarchy and protecting fragile egos than they do about the actual success and long-term growth of the league they're supposed to be promoting. He went as far as to insinuate that there's a level of sheer incompetence running the show that is almost impossible to comprehend unless you begin to factor in the possibility of deliberate malice. In his view, they didn't just miss a golden opportunity, they actively and consciously rejected it. And according to Smith, this level of disrespect is something Caitlin Clark is not going to forget anytime soon. He hinted that the bridge between her and USA basketball might already be burned down permanently, that Clark's camp is taking detailed notes on every single person who stayed silent while this whole debacle went down.
But the WNBA does. You got a max salary at $250,000. You had attendance, although it was trending in the right direction, certainly wasn't where you wanted it to be. And as Shannon pointed out just the other day, you got a team in the Indiana Fever with their struggling selves, struggling to win a damn game and be relevant. No team in the WNBA was worse other than the winless Washington Mystics, okay? And they went from 4,000 in attendance to 17,000. This girl is box office. I said a rising tide lifts all boats. What you do, especially if you're Team USA and you're trying to be globalized, it is an opportunity to globalize the WNBA brand. So people like Brittany Griner, you know, God bless her soul, and others don't have to go to Russia in the off season.
Now, if we're going to be completely honest about why Caitlin Clark isn't on a plane to Paris right now, we absolutely have to address the jealousy factor. It is the one narrative that the WNBA establishment desperately wants to avoid discussing in public, but frankly, it's the only explanation that makes all the pieces of this puzzle fit together in a way that makes any logical sense. The warning shots started firing long before Clark even played her first professional game. Diana Taurasi, who is undeniably one of the greatest players to ever compete in the WNBA, made her now famous comment that reality is coming for Clark. The way she phrased it sounded less like helpful veteran advice and more like a thinly veiled threat. Then you had Cheryl Swoops, another undisputed icon of the sport, incorrectly questioning Clark's college records and suggesting that she was only dominant because she took an excessive number of shots. The criticism felt deeply personal and specifically targeted rather than being objective or analytical. So the question is, why were these legends so pressed about a 22-year-old who hadn't even stepped onto a professional court yet? Why were they actively trying to diminish her incredible accomplishments before she even had a chance to prove herself at the next level? The theory that Stephen Smith has alluded to over and over again is painfully straightforward. The old guard resents the unprecedented level of attention that Clark receives. Think about it from their perspective. These are veterans who played their entire careers in nearly empty gyms. They flew on commercial airlines, crammed into middle seats. They ground out grueling professional careers for minimal pay and with virtually no mainstream recognition. And now here comes this young woman from Iowa who has private jets waiting for her on the tarmac, Nike deals worth tens of millions of dollars, and fans lining up around entire city blocks just to get a glimpse of her before she's even played a single professional game.
You make decisions, marketing. I want people watching. I want eyeballs. I want advertising dollars. Why? Because he'll get paid. Y'all will get paid. And guess who else will get paid? You see where I'm coming from? That's what it's about. Stop acting otherwise. We know this. You don't sit up there and pass on Caitlin Clark. It was stupid, Team USA. It was a dumb.
It's completely understandable, and frankly, it's just human nature to feel a little envious under those circumstances. But in the world of professional sports, veterans usually embrace the hotshot rookie who brings more money and attention into the sport because a rising tide lifts all boats and everyone benefits financially. When Tiger Woods completely exploded onto the golf scene and single-handedly transformed that sport's popularity, the other golfers didn't hate him for it. They thanked him, because he was the reason they saw their prize money triple and brought massive new sponsorship deals to the entire tour. But in the WNBA, the reaction to Clark has been the complete polar opposite. It truly feels like certain players want to punish Clark for her popularity rather than capitalize on it. That underlying toxicity is exactly why Clark might be secretly relieved that she didn't make the Olympic team. And this resentment didn't just stay confined to press conferences and snarky social media posts. It spilled onto the court in ways that have raised serious concerns about player safety. If you've been watching the games closely, you've noticed that Caitlin Clark gets hit differently than other players. And we're not talking about tough physical defense that's within the rules of the game. We are talking about blatant non-basketball plays that cross very clear lines. The Chennedy Carter incident became the most visible and shocking example. Clark was completely blindsided with a hip check while the ball wasn't even in play. Carter appeared to say something nasty to her and then knocked her to the floor in what looked like a deliberate and dangerous cheap shot. But what was truly telling was the reaction from the league and the other players. Did the WNBA suspend Carter immediately to send a message and protect their biggest asset? No. Did veteran players rush to Clark's defense and call out the completely inappropriate contact? Not at all. In fact, many players and media personalities seemed to justify it, calling it a welcome to the league mentality. They said Clark needed to toughen up and just accept this kind of treatment. Stephen A. Smith correctly pointed this out as a massive and obvious double standard. If this were LeBron James or Steph Curry getting cheap-shotted by some lesser-known player, the league would hand down immediate and lengthy suspensions to protect their most marketable assets. But with Clark, it felt like it was open season. This connects directly to the Olympic situation. Why on earth would Clark want to board a plane and spend an entire month in a foreign country with teammates who either participated in this kind of treatment or stood by silently and watched it happen? The Olympic roster is made up of the very women who have been making Clark's professional life a living hell for months. The trust is completely gone. You simply cannot build genuine team chemistry with people who seem to actively want to see you fail or, even worse, get hurt. The environment would be toxic at best and potentially dangerous at worst. And this brings us to the most explosive part of this entire situation: the rumored soft quit. After the initial roster was announced and the public backlash reached deafening levels, there were reports that USA Basketball might offer Clark an alternate position. Basically, she would be on standby in case of an injury. It's a pathetic consolation prize designed to let the committee save face by saying they still value her without actually giving her a real roster spot. But sources close to the situation suggest Clark had absolutely zero interest in being someone's backup plan. The rumor circulating in basketball circles is that she politely but firmly communicated that if she wasn't considered good enough for the main roster, she had no interest in waiting in the wings, hoping for someone else's injury to give her playing time. This is what constitutes the soft quit. Clark didn't hold a dramatic press conference. She didn't throw a public tantrum on social media. She simply and quietly withdrew her availability. Stephen A. Smith's recent commentary strongly supports this theory. He implied that Clark has fully realized her own power and leverage in this situation. She is the economy of the WNBA right now. She doesn't need Team USA to build her personal brand. Team USA desperately needed her to build theirs and to boost their television rating. By walking away and taking the month to rest her body instead, she's effectively communicating that the committee made their bed, and now they can lie in it. It's a brilliant power move that demonstrates remarkable maturity and business sense, and it's driving the establishment crazy because they fully expected her to beg for that alternate position. They expected gratitude for any scraps they offer. Instead, she's taking a vacation while they go play in front of television audiences that will likely be half the size they could have been with her presence. Let's just discuss the numbers, because quantifiable data doesn't lie about him. The Clark effect is absolutely real and completely measurable. Games featuring Caitlin Clark are drawing viewership numbers the WNBA hasn't seen in over 2 decades. We're talking about 300 to 400% increases in ratings compared to games without her. When Clark plays, arenas sell out completely. When she visits opposing teams, those organizations have to move their games to larger NBA arenas just to accommodate the massive crowd demand. She is literally a walking stimulus package for the entire league. Stephen A. Smith hammered this economic point home repeatedly. The Olympics is fundamentally a television product. NBC paid enormous sums of money for the broadcasting rights. They want, and they need, strong ratings to justify that investment. By leaving Clark at home, the selection committee essentially lit millions of dollars on fire. The revenge here is completely passive on Clark's part. She doesn't have to do anything, she just has to stay home and rest. When the Olympic game ratings come in and they're significantly lower than a random Indiana Fever regular season game, the point will be proven without her ever saying a single word. This financial reality is what makes the selection decision so genuinely baffling. It's not just a questionable sports decision, it's objectively terrible business. In the world of professional sports, losing money is typically the one unforgivable sin that gets decision makers fired. Yet somehow this committee made a choice that actively damaged their own financial product, and we need to address the toxic culture that allowed this situation to even develop. There's a growing narrative among fans and observers that the WNBA has a serious mean girl problem. It seems to operate like an exclusive clique or sorority where you have to be initiated, and that initiation process is intentionally brutal. For years, the league has been an incredibly tight-knit community. Everyone knows everyone. They play overseas together during the off-season. They share a collective struggle narrative. Clark represents something completely different. She represents mainstream acceptance. She represents the casual fan demographic, and the insiders seem to genuinely resent those casual fans. You see this attitude constantly on social media, where WNBA purists get angry that new fans only care about Clark. They post things like, "We've been here for years supporting the league. You need to support all the players, not just her." It's a technically valid point about recognizing all talent, but the delivery is consistently hostile and unwelcoming. Instead of rolling out the red carpet for new eyeballs and new revenue, they're interrogating people's credentials and gatekeeping who gets to be a real fan. So yes, Stephen A. Smith just confirmed what everyone suspected all along. Caitlin Clark is done with Team USA after they chose egos over excellence. She refused to be a backup plan for people who never wanted her there in the first place. This is a massive power move that changes the landscape of women's basketball forever. The committee killed their golden goose, and the dismal TV ratings will absolutely prove it. Do you respect Clark's decision to walk away from it all? Comment below and be sure to like and subscribe for more breaking sports news.